Good morning, good morning, good morning to each and everyone. This is me, Rena May Arbuna, Ate Nami for short, a Bachelor of Secondary Education, major in Physical Education. Studied at Visayas State University, main campus. So, today, I have invited Mr. Harold Ivan Piñones Sanico, a physical education teacher of Siabo National High School, to answer some of my questions related to the philosophical beliefs of physical activities on the new normal. Good morning, sir. How is your feeling today despite of this pandemic?
So I feel today, of course, grateful that I have a job which is a teacher. So despite of this pandemic, I am just such grateful that I have a job to, of course, to really share my knowledge in terms of teaching.
Is philosophy of physical education being essential for all physical educators?
Philosophy of physical education is essential for all physical educators out there since, of course, it serves as a blueprint and guide them on how they are going to develop their student athletes, their learners, on the way that they are going to develop their own potential, their own skills.
Can you explain to us, sir, the relationship between the physical education and the general education?
So there is a big relationship between physical education and general education because both aspects having this kind of philosophy or theory that could help them in terms of developing and improving their own self, especially in terms of physical education. It develops more on physical aspects, but as well as into social relationship, and general education more on you have this kind of principle or theory that could make you guided with what things that you're going to do as a person.
Is philosophy of physical education make society aware that physical education contributes to its values?
So some philosophy of physical education, of course, it makes society aware that you have this kind of values, because once you have this kind of certain philosophy, of course, society is aware that there are certain values that you can get from your own philosophy that you are being done, or of course you are guided with such philosophy. So of course there are certain values that you can learn and of course that you can share among others.
Does philosophy of physical education aids in bringing members of the profession closer together?
So of course, philosophy of physical education aids in bringing members of the profession closer together since once you have this certain philosophy, so you are guided with what direction you want to become as a professional individual in terms of the programs that could really help develop your own self, the directions that you want as a person. So it really gives you the interest, the needs that is upon within your own self-actualization.
Does the philosophy of physical education guides the professionals?
So philosophy of physical education guides the professional as well, since as a professional you have this theory, but in terms of physical education you are making yourself, of course, having it could be a naturalistic type or realism, since we are in a real world situation. So you are developing the realistic side of way, or it could be a naturalist way. So it really gives you the guidance on how you become a professional.
Does philosophy of physical education essential to professional education?
So philosophy of physical education is really essential to all professional education, just like as teachers. Since as teacher of physical education, it is very essential that you have the guidance of this philosophy for us to share our knowledge, to share our ideas on the things that that the learners or our student athletes could really develop in terms of the interest that they want to do, or the interest or needs that they want to achieve in life.
Does philosophy of physical education results in the improvement of professional practices?
So philosophy of physical education results in the improvement of professional practices in such a way that these philosophies could really turn out into some improvements, not just more onto weaknesses but as well as into strengths, in developing the practices that you want on how you mold your learners or athletes.
Does philosophy of PE articulates the worth of physical education?
Of course, this philosophy articulates the worth of physical education, because not just building the physical education type of learners, but as well as it really articulates the worth of physical education, or it really articulates the worth of PE in terms of this philosophy, because you are guided, you have this blueprint that you want to achieve.
Is it okay that we do physical activities now that we are facing new normal?
Of course, it is really okay that we do certain physical activities now that we are facing new normal, since physical activities really helps us to be more physically active, to be more sociable in terms of social relationships. But of course, observing protocols, especially since time of this pandemic, so we are just in our homes, so we're just going to build in our own self-actualization, self-independence in this time of pandemic, but as well as developing your own self first, rather than be infected with the virus. So we are just dealing with physical activities independently.
As a PE teacher, what are the challenges did you encounter, especially doing physical tasks?
So of course, as a PE teacher, the challenges that I encounter, especially doing physical tasks, is in terms of physical tasks, you are of course having the difficulty in terms of checking the outputs of your learners, if they do this certain activities that you want to achieve, but we cannot have really access to that, since in our own case we don't have any signal, we don't have any communication in terms of how do we do physical activities. So as they are just doing their activities independently, so just they just of course doing this in an honest type of encountering. So of course, if I have to do physical tasks, so they are having the difficulty, since they don't have really the guidance of the teacher, because it is more onto modular distance learning. But as well as in terms of home visitation, so we can of course having access to that, so we are just in a face-to-face manner but observing protocols.
What are the values connected with physical activities?
Of course, values that are connected with physical activities is very important, since having physical activities, you are learning by doing. So you learn while doing the certain activities that you want to achieve. So from those values, so you can learn confidence, you can learn independence, you can learn creative mind, since building physical activities is such more on to critical thinking, solving problems. So that are really the values of engaging into physical activities.
What are the physical activities can students still perform in this new normal?
So the physical activities that of course students still perform in this new normal, it could be somehow warm-up exercises that they want to do at home. So Zumba is another physical activities. It could be Zumba, or it could be dance. So, or those physical activities that can really build into the performances of the students. Could be dance, it could be Zumba. So those are certain physical activities that they can do in this time of new normal because we cannot go outside. Or it could be into sports that are just at home that they can do.
How did you cope up with that challenges?
So of course, coping with those challenges, so I just cope in terms of these challenges is of course to make education more livelier in terms of physical education. So I just really do my job to go to the learners. But of course there are certain things that I cannot do. So coping with those things is really difficult for me since we don't have access into signals. But as we go along into our job, so we are still coping into the process.
In doing physical activity, what are the safety protocols that as a PE teacher could suggest in order to be protected?
So in doing physical activity, so of course the safety protocols that you as a could suggest in order to be protected is of course doing physical activities. You need to wear face mask, face shield, bring hand sanitizer.
What have you realized about the importance of physical activities before and today that we are facing the new normal?
Those are important things, and then observe social distancing in terms of doing physical activities. So I realized that physical activity is very important because you need to develop more onto your physical aspects in terms of your mental, and it could be into social relationship with one another. So that is really an important realization nowadays.
Is it hard for you as a PE teacher to adjust for the new normal?
So really it is hard as a PE teacher to adjust for the new normal. Of course, since we cannot deal with those things into face-to-face interaction because students would really raise up questions on they have this difficulty. But of course, in the new normal, it is more onto modular. There are some who has gadget, who has access, but there are some really who don't have. So really, it is adjustment period in terms of this new normal setup.
What are the characteristics of a flexible PE teacher in the new normal?
Of course, the characteristics of a flexible PE teacher is just be versatile on how you deal with this, and how you deal with the things that in this time of pandemic. So you just be versatile on how do you do, just work hard, and then you just have passion, dedication of your work.
How are you able to guide your students during this new normal?
Of course, able to guide my students during this time of pandemic is very important aspect that they should be guided is of course dealing with home visitation every Thursday. So you are just guiding your students in such a way that they will have, of course, follow-up evaluation if they really learn the lesson.
What inspirational message can you share to us right now about the importance of physical activity during this new normal?
Of course, physical activities really helps mold your own self, your own character. So that is really the importance of physical activities in this time of new normal. So we just do physical activities. We just vary our physical activity.
And that's all, sir. Thank you for your cooperation.